Well, hello again everybody. Lovely to touch base with you, this time coming to you from the Darwin Church property here right in the CBD of Darwin. It's a beautiful location and a beautiful property, and it's a very tropical day today, I might say. Bit humid, quite warm, but paradise nonetheless. So it's a pleasure to be here, and this week I have spent all of this time over here in the Northern Territory, starting with Pastor David's ordination last Sabbath, and what an amazing time that was. Just a wonderful opportunity to get together and celebrate God's calling on a life. We didn't focus on him as an individual, but looked at what God was doing in his life and his calling on people and the way he gives people, and it was just a special time all around. And so I want to thank Pastor David for the invitation, for the great day that it was, and all his elders team who worked so faithfully to put such a meaningful program together. But as if an ordination program wasn't enough on that day, that in the afternoon we had a Pathfinder and Adventurer investiture program, and then that was followed by a baptism of several people also. So it really was a full day. It was an absolute highlight and a thrill and a privilege to be there. Well, then after Alice Springs I started my trip north, and have been able to catch up with the congregations in Tennant Creek and in Catherine as well, and our pastoral team. And it's been meaningful in the sense that this week is NAIDOC week, and the whole country pauses to mark that, where they celebrate the history and the culture of our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island folk. And what a better place to be during NAIDOC week than out here in the Northern Territory part of our conference, because here a lot of our focus, ministry focus that is towards our Aboriginal folk. And one amazing story that was shared with me this week came from Andrew Johnson, our Bible worker based in Catherine, and he was down south following up some invitations to go into a community and to connect with folk who were interested. And he was telling me that a key lady in that community a number of weeks ago dreamt one night that a man would come to that community selling books, and that he would be able to, or he would be sharing about Daniel and about Daniel's dream, and be able to give them some more information from the Bible. A day or two before Andrew went into that community, he was also given a dream about going into that community and sharing from the book of Daniel. And so, of course, God set up the appointment, and he went in there and they compared stories, and their hearts are open, and Andrew there was able to share, especially from Daniel chapter 2, and encourage the folk that God is in control and he knows what's happening. And so it really is wonderful. And as I travel through the Northern Territory here and I hear the work amongst our Aboriginal folk, what really encourages me is the fact that God is the answer to any problem. God is the solution. And I just see the amazing way that God is able to change hearts and minds and transform people. Not just Aboriginal people, but people of every culture and every persuasion. And I'm so pleased that God is doing an amazing work out here amongst the Aboriginal community. Some folk out here, while I've been travelling around, have asked me about Big Camp, so I thought I would share a little bit with you about that. They're saying, is Big Camp going to happen next year? And my answer is, I'm not sure. We don't know whether a vaccine's going to be ready by then, although the signs are promising. We don't know whether restrictions will be lifted, whether borders will be open, whether third, fourth, fifth, sixth waves are going to be coming through by then. It's such an uncertain time that we can't plan yet with any certainty, or say with any certainty, that camp is going to be on. But we're certainly planning towards it. We'll have to make a call, maybe in February or March, a definite call to say yes or no. Clearly international speakers at this stage are out. We're not sure whether interstate speakers will be allowed to come into Queensland or not. We also have to make preparations for a far more rigorous cleaning regime, because infection control is going to be a major issue given that everybody shares the same toilets and showers. We're also going to have to check everybody in and out, screen them if you like Queenslanders now do when they go to church. They have to give their details, or if they go to a restaurant, we're going to have to essentially lock the place down and screen people in and out if screening measures are still there. Whether they're permanent people like staying on the campground or whether they're day trippers. So there's a whole lot for us to consider And so in the new year, as we lead up to the point where we have to make the call, I'll be contacting Queensland Health and seeking their best advice on whether we can actually hold big camp in the way we want to, and whether they're suggesting we hold it in the numbers that we normally have coming or not. So sorry I can't give a more definite answer at the moment. There's some of the issues we're wrestling with, and we'll be seeking the best advice we can and make a call on it sometime in the new year. Wednesday this week was Armistice Day, or Remembrance Day as it's come to be known, that marked the conclusion of World War I. Of course, World War I was called the war to end all wars. And when it came to an end there on the 11th of the 11th in 1918, there was incredible celebrations right around the globe as people said, thank goodness that's finished. There'll be no more wars on that scale. Sadly, of course, since then there have been so many wars, including another world war which impacted Darwin here in a very tangible way. They had 64 bombing raids here in Darwin during World War II. We had 3 in Townsville. They had another bombing up in Mossman as well. So the war came to Australian soil in World War II in a very confronting way and destroyed a lot of the infrastructure here in Darwin. And what that didn't destroy, cyclones have destroyed, and so forth. So Darwin's really had a pretty bad run through that whole period. But the bottom line is the war to end all wars didn't end all wars. And there have been so many since. But I'm reminded of that great vision in Daniel chapter 2, that same chapter that Andrew shared with that Aboriginal lady and all of her friends and family through the dream that she'd had, where God outlines to a pagan king, a king who was the ruler of the superpower of the day, and he outlines to that pagan king who the successive empires are going to be down through time, the superpowers that were to follow on. And so he tells King Nebuchadnezzar through this dream that his prophet Daniel interprets, that Babylon is going to be a superpower, and then you're going to have Persia, and then Greece, and then Rome, and then you're going to go through a period of divided kingdoms represented by the feet of iron and clay there, where you'll have some strong kingdoms, some weak kingdoms, and we see that around us today. They're all going to be fighting, and they're all going to be trying to get the upper hand and unite, but it won't happen. But then he says there's a rock that's cut out without human hands that will strike that image and destroy it. And that represents God's kingdom that will be set up forever. It will be the final great superpower, the one that will last into eternity. And so there at the end of Daniel chapter 2, Daniel in verse 44 says to the king, in the time of those kings, and he's talking about all the kings that make up the feet of iron and clay, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it will itself endure forever. We talk about Remembrance Day or Armistice Day as the day that brought the Great World War to an end. But I want to point you forward to another Remembrance Day, another Armistice Day that's coming very soon in the future, that will bring all wars to an end and usher in an eternal kingdom of peace, safety, tranquility, happiness, and joy. That's God's kingdom. It's coming soon. And it's going to replace all of these kingdoms that are fighting amongst themselves today and that we've seen fighting over the years. And God is going to establish his eternal kingdom for his saints. Can't wait to be a part of that. Can't wait for that to happen. And so while on Wednesday this last week we paused at 11 o'clock to remember the end of World War I, let's pause occasionally and think about God coming to end all wars and bring in a reign of peace. May God bless you as you go through this coming week, and take care.